Some of the most frequently asked questions I get is, what else can I do to manage my blood sugar? We have to be really tuned into our macros, so protein, fat, and carbohydrates is absolutely critical. So think about it this way, protein and fats together are good, protein and carbs together are good, although I want to be very deliberate about protein. Most, if not all of you that are watching this video are not eating enough protein. So go back and listen to my podcast with Dr. Gabrielle Lyons, where we talk about how much protein we should be consuming in our diets. And I find most, if not all of my female patients really don't consume enough. We want 1 gram of protein to each lean pound of body weight. I bet most of you are way under that and probably consuming somewhere between 25 to 30 grams of protein per meal, which is actually no good at helping to maintain not only lean muscle mass, but also not as satiating as it could be. When we talk about putting fat and carbs together, this is actually not ideal. You definitely want to consider a lower carb, ketogenic, or carb cycling option as opposed to consuming fats and carbs together, which we know makes it highly intoxicating and hard to limit. Think about nuts and cheese and things like that that can really be challenging to consume just a small portion. I also want you to think about meal timing. So there's a lot of information out there about chronobiology and syncing to the circadian rhythm. And this is really talking and speaking to when cortisol is highest in the morning, ebbs and flows throughout the day, and is lowest at night. You are much more insulin sensitive late morning, early afternoon than you are at night. So you want to plan your meals accordingly. And that's why I'm such a huge proponent of intermittent fasting, because this will be more akin to the way that our bodies are genuinely designed to thrive, as opposed to eating every 2 to 3 hours and drinking sugary drinks and spiking insulin all day long. You also want to consider things like taking a walk outside after a meal, even 5 or 10 minutes we know can be hugely beneficial, and considering products like chromium GTF or berberine. There's actually been research looking at the impact of berberine alongside metformin or glucophage, which is actually an oral type 2 diabetes medication. I do want to caution you that if you're already lean or at a goal weight, taking berberine on a daily basis can dysregulate your blood sugar in a negative way. But for most that are watching this video, you can safely take berberine, obviously discuss it with your healthcare provider, to help maintain your blood sugar in very beneficial ways. I know for many of my ladies, it has allowed them to forego needing to be on medication, but again, it requires monitoring. We also want to think about hormetic stressors like intermittent fasting that can help better manage our blood sugar levels. So finding balance is really key. So there's no one size fits all philosophy. I do like women and men to take it low and slow, start with a 12 to 14 hour fasting window and slowly increase it and monitor how you're feeling. The more carbohydrate dependent you are, the more time it will take for your body to become fat adapted and tap into those fat stores, as Jason Fung likes to talk about, going into the freezer for those fat stores. I also think it's important to consider things like cold and hot therapy. So it could be that you take 30 seconds at the end of your shower to tap into the parasympathetic. Heat therapies like infrared sauna or just even sweating we know are very beneficial. Next are things like strength training, high intensity interval training, or Tabata. These actually will help tap into using glucose for fuel and can help clear some of that additional blood sugar. It also, especially with strength training in particular, you are going to build more lean muscle mass, which is going to be a reservoir for this additional blood sugar. And I want you to think about stress management. There's no one watching this video that doesn't have some degree of stress in their lives. Acutely, it's fine. It's part of life, right? But chronically, this can raise your serum blood sugar and make you metabolically inflexible. It can also raise cortisol and store fat, especially in your abdominal area. I talk a lot about sleep, and sleep is absolutely foundational to our health. So if you're getting less than 8 hours a night of sleep consistently, we know that this can dysregulate not only your blood sugar, also cortisol, leptin, and ghrelin, so it impacts your satiety hormones, dysregulates your ability to really secrete quite a bit of growth hormone at night, which is when we get some of the peak opportunities to secrete more growth hormone, which keeps lean muscle mass on, and we actually lose opportunities to tap into the glymphatic system, which is this waste and recycling process that goes on in our brains only when we're sleeping. So stay tuned. I've got more in this series that will help you stay as metabolically flexible as possible.